Acupuncture. So I've been practicing acupuncture, fortunately, since 2014. I've been fortunate to have been trained under world-renowned masters such as Kiko Matsumoto, and also within the system of how luminary Taoist Jeffrey Yuen. I've been attending his CEUs since about 2012 while I was a student. So I've been fortunate to have been aligned with beautiful people who have no other choice but to work in servitude and speaking from their experiences and giving it and passing it onward. So I am fortunate to have been a recipient of that as a student. The joke is, or not the joke, I always say forever a student, because I'm always absorbing and learning. My Kung Fu is acupuncture and Chinese medicine. There's a reason why I don't treat patients anymore. And I've been treating people. I've had my practice since 2014 for at least 7 years. So I've been practicing independently for several years. And when my practice closed down, when I had to close it down, I was fortunate to have also worked at a very, very busy orthopedic clinic where there were over 300 surgeons there. So there was physical therapy, and I was an in-house acupuncturist working adjunctively to treat patients per se for an array of issues, most commonly pain management, pre or post surgery. And having said that, the experience that I gathered were treating people at a high volume, which is not normally my flow. 50, between 50 and 60 patients per week. And there are there are many attributes that I can get out of that. Even though it wasn't my way of normally working with people, I can say that there was so much of added value as a way to offer a sort of a conflict as to what I normally wouldn't do. And because of that, many pearls of wisdom were able to, I was able to kind of like put enough pressure into my system because there almost was like a love and hate relationship with working in such a fast-paced environment. For that reason only, because the people there, the patients there, everybody was lovely and beautiful to work with. It was just like my natural flow doesn't usually work that fast. So having had worked with a fast-paced environment and working against my natural state, there was kind of like a contrast, and within that pressure build up with what I normally wouldn't do versus with the knowing of who I am, I was able to birth pearls of wisdom. This wasn't my original intent to speak about, but I'll mention it really quickly. One of them was a remembrance of one or two past lives of having had served in wars, one of them in this reality as an earthling. Again, we're transcending judgment. Those people, I hope you're the ones that are listening. And it's okay if you don't understand or you don't believe me, and I'm okay with that. All due regard to all respect. I'm just speaking my experiences, that even my truth I don't hold on to, just so you say. So just so that you know. I have been able to meet many veterans, when I say many, I would say in the dozens, that came to me from treating at a particular place in New Jersey. And that's where the remembrance came to me. At first, it shook me because just meeting one person was enough. But when it was one after the other, week after week, for like 4 or 5 months, I started to say, like, oh my gosh, like, did I run an entire platoon, or was this entire platoon run down like during World War II or something like that, Pearl Harbor Day? And I don't have the answers to those specifics, but my heart and the vibrational field of my connection. And I can't tell you I can separate between me individually or my ancestry within my DNA imprint, because personally there is no separation when it comes to the vibratory fields of things that for myself I can speak, that I'm still working on to heal. So if I'm healing myself individually, for me it's no separate than my entire ancestral line. And having said that, when I say my ancestral line, it's not just my bloodline. We have ancestries and many other tribes per se. Once you start opening up your heart, first remembering, also with self-trust, and losing self-judgment, like I would say, and judging of others, and being so open-minded that your level of observing and listening starts to expand. And having said that, nothing what I just said matters if you're not able to kind of like receive and start to remember with an actual experience, for you to be able to say, I can understand, because you become that experience, just like the experience I'm mentioning myself. But again, that's my take on that when it comes to remembering past lives and whatnot, and my experience on that. Thinking that I was just going to be treating patients at a pain management place, the real lesson was actually for me in allowing me to rekindle a remembrance of many beautiful, powerful men. And I think there was like one female that was a veteran, and most of them were U.S. Marines, to be honest, but not all of them, but most of them were. But there was a remembrance, and not everybody remembered me, but some did. Some did when I started to open up to them, and the ones that didn't remember me, they stuck around. And even if their pain didn't get better, as I was treating them with acupuncture, and a lot of them were also seeing physical therapy, I started to understand something that I already knew in my mind and in my heart, but it was still something that I need to exercise, that I wanted to no longer call the clients or even friends that I treat as patients, as I was trained to as an acupuncturist. And I knew this for a long time, but it needed to kind of like come into a reality, even though I wasn't saying or calling people patients anymore. But I was working at a place where they were still calling them patients, and the patients were like proud to be called patients. And that's where it's like, here I am saying patients again. So it felt like I didn't have a choice, but there was something to be reflected that I needed to see for myself. But as I started to connect with these men that wouldn't remember me, they knew something in their subconscious mind, and I'm highly attuned. Over the years, I have allowed myself the ability to cultivate myself of being in tune with other souls. I guess most people would label me as an empath. I just don't hold on to titles like that. But yes, you can say that I was born as an empath and whatnot, and empath not yet able to understand myself or able to control my strong emotions. So I have a very strong emotional field of a way of communicating. So it took the last maybe decade of my life to, or even less than that, to start to tap into my innate natural ability to communicate, which is beyond just my mind, but also working with my heart and my emotional field. And as I started to expand on that field of communication, it allowed me to understand what was missing in most of my life, which was the divine feminine. If I'm looking down, it's because the sun is like right in my eyes, and I don't feel like moving the camera. The phone's gonna probably fall over because I'm kind of like on a little bit of a hill, angled. And so having said that, the way I start to connect with people in the vibratory field of just like unconditional love, they too were feeling the same conversation with me. And unspoken words or language started to, how you may want to say, to reflect between our connection, between all the old remembered friends that I've been treating at this busy place. And they received something from me. And that's where the lesson for me as an acupuncturist started to ascend. And that was that whenever I'm treating somebody, I'm also working on myself. And yes, I knew that already, and I've taught classes on that before, and I've spoken on that. But it took me to a new level of being able to experience it when it comes to remembrances of past lives in the here and now, not just in the astral realm, but to the ability to anchor from the astral realm into this 3D physical reality. I guess you may want to say the law of comprehension, as above, so below, as within, so without, and in a sense that I would interpret that partially as the ability to anchor the higher realms, even the astral realms, even heaven or the ether, and being able to anchor it down here in your consciousness so that you can remember that there is no separation. There's only separation because the thinking mind, we are living within the world or the reality of our logical, rational thinking mind. that's powered and that's kind of like dictated by more of the left side of the mind, which is more of like the masculine or the patriarchy. And I usually tend to call it the sick patriarchy because we're sick. We are dying because it's time for us to complete with what no longer or shouldn't have ever served us. And that's the never having had, not just including the divine matriarchy, but to raising them up and raising them up into heaven in the same way that they've always raised us up first and foremost. And it should be a cyclical, like almost like a yin and yang, almost like the fish, the koi fish catching the tail of the other fish while that second fish is trying to catch the tail with that. And if you've seen that diagram where the yin and yang or the two koi fish, whatnot, they start to, they're always chasing each other. You start creating this vortex, right? And I guess if you look at things in the 2D realm of looking at something like with an X and Y axis, like on a piece of paper on a computer, right? But then when you start to 3D it, when you start seeing that momentum of that catch and tail, it's almost like seemingly like they never catch each other. And that starts to, when you start creating that Z-axis or you start creating that Fibonacci sequence, then you start seeing that when you add that extra trajectory, that if you're looking up to down into that, tube, or that coil of energy that's being related, then you can, maybe through imagery or imagination in your creative mind, you're the 3D printer, so you create them coming towards you, right? And when you see that, then now you see them actually creating this kind of like reverse flow Fibonacci sequence of ascension per se. And singularity consciousness or unity consciousness is when they actually come back to source. So they're always trying to come home to each other. Yin and yang is trying to come back from their separation between singularity conscious. Also, even if you're looking at the Tai Chi theory within the I Ching, within Chinese medicine, or understanding the yin and yang theory, it's like, even like they say that the singularity or the big Shen separated into two smaller Shens, which is the yin to the yang, and you could call it the feminine and the masculine, or the X and the Y, or the good and the bad, and the sun and the moon, life and death. And you can go seemingly infinite with like polar opposites, which is the energy of polarity. So going back to the koi fish, when you start opening up and invigorating such paradigms, which are many, such as the yin and yang theory, or the koi fish, or the activation and the remembrance of the divine feminine with you, as I was trying to explain within my, with the way that it was integrating within my sense of consciousness, then what happens is that you, especially if you're one that is, especially if you're someone that is always looking to evolve and ascend within your spiritual or divine spiritual ascension process, and you're always observing, and you're always finding videos such as this one, and you're looking to relate so that you don't feel like you're going crazy. Then you'll start to understand that you don't even attach to even what I'm saying, or you don't even attach to these patterns like yin and yang theory and whatnot. And why am I saying that? Is that once you start to use almost like carpentry, these tools, these archetypical patterns and approaches, and your ability to see, especially if you're male and you don't have your divine feminine reintegrated into your system yet. So I'm speaking more in the left thinking brain, because I think that's in the collective where more people need to hear, because those that are not don't really need to hear me, to be honest, because that's the journey that they actually tap in from within themselves. Less the words that I'm speaking just like no different than a bird is speaking their truth in the moment. So I have no choice but to speak my truth wherever I'm at. So whether it's this camera in front of my face or somebody asks me, I'll speak. Again, it's because I don't know how not to speak my truth if I see that there's a window for me to be able to speak, because deep down inside somebody's heart, they need to hear something. And whether I understand as to why, it's not relevant, because again, when you're not judging that person and you no longer care, to be honest, if you're going to be judged, you speak anyway. Once you transcend fears of so many things and judgment and unworthiness and guilt, you have no choice but to speak your truth because you no longer look to make friends, to be honest. I feel like anybody can be my brother and my sister. All they have to do is just say, am I your sister, am I your brother, with love. And already the door is open for any single soul. It's already automatic. And just like my sister or brother, we can go years or maybe lifetimes never speak in any time, shape, or way, right? And how would you understand that if you're still judging yourself and me, or you're judging yourself based on your filter of what you believe is supposed to be a good human or a good person or a good man? Huh? You wouldn't be able to, especially if your experiences are not being matched with my words as saying, I love you so much, I may never see you again, but I'm there. And I know you're there. How do you see if you're still, or one would still be stuck within their morality and working within the lower spectrum of their minds based on survival and feeling safe in a household with a family, and still being in school with a certain way, and just stuck being still processing and feeding the matrix, the false inorganic matrix, in such a way that, which is, I'm not saying it's not anything wrong with that, but if you don't have yourself at heart, and that's where it brings me back to, if you don't have yourself at heart, then when you plug in, you get lost again, just like anybody else. And I can speak of that because I've probably been lost in, I can recall, maybe not specifically literal, I'll take this number as a code of remembrance, but 10,000 lives. It feels like 10,000 lives that I can remember how many times I had plugged in, how many times I have drowned, how many lives I remember from not just in Atlantis, but Lemuria, not just Lemuria, but in Pleiades, not just in Pleiades, but in Arcturus, not just Arcturus, but maybe Lyra. How much anger do I still hold with certain decisions that were made that led to the fall of Atlantis, and I'm still holding the pain body experience and memory that I'm still healing from. Most people right now would just say, huh? What the heck is he talking about? So when I plug away from people and I plug into myself, it allows me the ability to remember past lives where I had to sacrifice, and I don't want to say forget, but kind of like clean slate my entire conscious mind from those past lives. And it took me a very long time in this life to resurrect, to bring back that sense of remembrance. And it had to start with instincts. It had to start with fears, and then like beliefs, and then me having to break certain stigmas about myself or others and belief systems, and break out of like even the quarrels of my religious background of having had grown up a certain way with religion, and all of those things. And any experience, whether I was religious, grew up religious or not, any experience, even schooling, even my desire of wanting and needing friends, because that was like the way you're supposed to make friends here. All of that kept leading me away from God from within, that spark from within me. And that journey back home indicates that you had to be able to return to your innocence even before you had all those questions, even before I had all those questions. And as a 48-year-old man in this life form, I'm able to now go back to my innocence and retrain and to heal from my childhood trauma in my process. And as I start healing from that, I'm able to take all that burden, all that heaviness, all of that dis-ease, not being at ease, right? And once I clear that space with consciousness, a sense of consciousness, and always observing myself and my weight, then the remembrances start to kind of like naturally fall in place, because it was time. It was time. Having said that, that links me to one particular one, that one of the most beautiful experiences of being human is that it was the first time, not in the astral realm or in different senses of consciousness of my awakening mind, I was able to experience it in the 3D, working in a stressful place and an environment at this busy pain management practice, where I was able to meet these beautiful souls that most of them did remember me and did connect with me, and felt like we were the only ones in the world in the moment, and that the world was crazy and it was just us two in the moment. And you all know what I'm talking about when you connect with somebody like that. And it reminded me of something, being an acupuncturist, being so-called a healer. It enabled me even further and deeper with what my heart already spoke, but it needed to take its path this way for me. It enabled me to be able to sincerely say to anyone that I work with in the field of acupuncture, Chinese medicine, or life coaching, or in Qigong, or in the martial arts world, whatnot, or as a friend, right, or as a brother, whether it's in this realm or in the astral realm, same. That I'm not healing anyone. I mean, did people get better? Yeah, I've seen autoimmune diseases heal. I've seen people for years have been able to avoid knee replacement surgery, hip replacement surgery, and I've gotten to experience things that you would say makes no logical sense unless you're a surgeon. I've worked and seen people heal with autoimmune diseases that I had to Google that I never heard of before. And between 2 or 3 treatments, sometimes 6 to 8 treatments, sometimes 1 or 2 months, but sometimes 2 or 3 weeks, sometimes 2 or 3 days. Everybody was individual. I've seen people go 100%, you would say remission, I would say healed. And I didn't think much about it. I just said yes, you know. Understandably, this system of 5,000-year-old system of acupuncture, Chinese medicine, it's this. I stand strong with this medicine, and that was actually a reality, because when you believe in something, you put all of this faith and knowing into a system that's already been evolved so many thousands of years by beautiful souls alive or in many other lives that have devoted their entire lives in Chinese medicine. You're tapping into that entire ancestral line, or in that entire dragon of a creation, you may want to say, right? You're of the dragon still. And when you do that, it's no longer about you, it's all about that family too. We're talking about family, right? And ancestry. It's almost like you start becoming adopted, or maybe because when somebody loves you unconditionally and when they adopt you as their family and part of this huge dragon of Chinese medicine, this one particular dragon that's more than 5,000 years old, just documented that with as 5, but it's a lot older than that, that they take you in unconditionally, because as you're becoming adopted into something new and you're saying, well, that's not my tribe because that's not my ancestry and my lineage, right? It doesn't matter, because love is love is love. It's love. And that's the challenge, is that for 2 things. One is that, are you capable of transcending what family means to you? Because once you're able to see that it's no longer just your bloodline, and if you only see it that way, you can see how it could be your actual purest blessing and curse at the same time. Because having a family and being strongly rooted with family, and although you feel protected and you feel strong in your body, you feel athletic, you feel like you got a tribe, it's keeping you separate and separated from other families that you've had. Believe it or not. Actually, don't believe me. You have to see for yourself if you're not resonating. And if you do, hello, brother, hello, sister. And the other thing, and the other one would be in the field of, I'll give you an example as to the other one, is that I'm not healing anyone. Anybody could take the title. Any doctor, if they want to work with that, that's their paradigm they're working with, and nothing to do with that. But I'm speaking for myself. I'm not healing anyone. When I'm connected with someone, it's no different than if my mother, my brother, my sister, in general, a cousin, my best friend. When you're there, it's no separation for me. You know what I'm talking about. And school didn't teach me that. And once you allow that higher chakra realm, whether it's the heart chakra and above, connected, below would be the titles, right? The lower chakras would be identity and patterns and working with it. And there's power there. Like I said, there's a lot of people that I worked on seeing healed because I worked in that realm. And part of being, a real master in playing music here and symphony, of being a true musician, is knowing the 7 musicalities of your frequencies of existence. You would say your 7 chakras system. Now there's more than 7, but you need to understand the first 7 like keynotes of that, kind of like the octave, right? So that you can arrive at the 8. And once you understand that, then you can ascend with another 7 in your higher octave, right? Or your lower octave, and understand with some kind of like a structure let's say sacred geometry, or if you're a musician, you can speak it so much better than I can right now, and you use that with technique from paradigms of other masters that have trained to be able to teach you how to play music, right? Once you understand the symphony of your own creation, that you're not just a player, you're not just a musician, but you're also the conductor, then you let go of the titles and you allow for the music that you've always been playing in the most soulful way to play and illuminate your conscious mind. And most will confuse it as it just being God out there. And again, going back to the law of comprehension, as above, so below, as within, so without. So the God out there that you see, and if you're seeing it with your eyes, and if you're feeling it, and you're in awe with it with your senses, your sensory senses, then you're absorbing and extracting it back within. So one can argue that what you see out there is reflecting back at you because you're creating the music to attract that frequency. And it could not exist without you. So how can I be a healer of somebody's God spark? S-P-A-R-K. NPCs and XYZs and people who are soulless. It took God's spark to even birth that. And dark forces are more than able and capable of taking the residue of that divine power that you would say even creates the vibration of what you would feel as unconditional love. That once you understand the symphony of how they are using that destructively to mind trap, to manipulate, to possess, as in possessions, demonically so, you no longer fight the fight. You're no longer the healer. You're no longer the warrior. You're no longer the fighter. I'm no longer the acupuncturist. You sit back in awe and understand that even in the subconscious or unconscious soul that stands next to you in a park, or as a patient, or as a warrior that stares at another warrior from past lives, and even though they're coming from a war from this life, that pain body experience is still there, meant to be sung. The song of being heard by those that are still in pain haven't been heard by those who love unconditionally, because they are inept and maybe not able to remember how to tap in to that unconditional love for themselves to be able to attract that in other souls. So they are in war still. That's why you have PTSD, and you're down with OPP, you know me. Doesn't matter the name. They're very real labels with 100% respect with people going through adversity. So you have to be able to respect and honor those in their process, that God within them has divine timing so pure, goes beyond your thoughts or my thoughts as an acupuncturist to think that I'm healing them. Once I realized that I'm able to make music, and by sitting and completely being a facilitator of one's own self-healing and offering maybe guidance if there's a window of reminding other souls that they are healers from within themselves, and all you need to do is remember. And I would say I'm just simply a mirror with this heavy old mirror going like this. I do this all the time in videos, by the way. And I'm just like, that's the hard work for me as an acupuncturist, not the needles. And saying, look. If you see me as the healer, if you see me as the weird one, if you see me as crazy, if you see me as a friend, if you remember me, if you judge me, it's all beautiful because it's you. Anything that you see in me is just a version of you. And what I enjoy doing, which brings me complete joy and reverence for as long as I am led to by my higher self, is to remind others that I'm okay. And because when I tell you that I'm okay with my heart, I mean, it's because you're okay, and I'm attracting you just like you attracted me the same. So if you see somebody sick and you think you're their healer, what is it in your life that you're attracting? Something to ponder, right? Pondering thoughts. When you're able to sit with someone such as myself or yourself and go through this 30-minute or so conversation, just enjoy life, and with whoever you're resonating, and you're able to like, not just because I'm saying it, but if you actually resonate with what I'm saying, let's say, just because maybe me and you are sharing time together right now, then you're already an acupuncturist. You know, you're already a healer. You're already a surgeon. You're a soul surgeon. You're whatever you want to be, and you're whatever you're not, or you don't want to be. What I'm saying is that you are already 100% God within. And if you attracted me as a friend here, or if you attract me as an acupuncturist because you're going through something, or you just need a tune-up, I'm just a facilitator, reminding you that so are you, and let's make magical music together, whether or not we physically meet. And that's the most beautiful thing of being spirit experiencing humanity. It's the same.